we will be covering Tag Manager. And it'll be exciting because honestly, this is probably one of my favorite tools that we get to learn how to use. And mostly because once you realize its potential, you can use it to track anything on the website. You don't need a developer. It will make your life infinitely easier and infinitely simpler.
Oh, you should mention, so we just got news that there's something going on with a new tag coming out from Tag Manager. So we will keep you all up to date as to...
Actually, that one's slightly different. That one's for the Google Ads, and we'll cover that when we go to do conversion tracking with Google Ads. That's where that comes up. But it should get normalized anyway, because Tag Manager is just going to switch in the background and you're not even going to notice. So it shouldn't affect us if we're using Tag Manager. I think it's more for people who are using like the more old school manual way. So
we're learning how to tag anything. So this would be like a new button on a website.
You could track someone clicking on it, and then it will go into your Google Analytics, and then you could see form filled or mail to link clicked, and it's all no code. So it's just very simple. Of you just fill in a couple of spaces to whenever this gets clicked, I want to send that as an event to Google Analytics. Okay, yeah, we will definitely cover how to even set it up. There's going to be you're going to see a little bit of like code stuff, and it's going to be super simple. That's why it's recorded. We're going to see HTML, and it's going to be super easy, much more straightforward than, accidentally opening up inspect element. So always starting with a quote, efficiency is doing things right. Effective is doing the right things, by Peter Drucker. And so today we are covering, our learning objectives, we're going to cover, obviously, what is it? What is Tag Manager? How does it work? Why should we use it? We're going to go through the dashboard, and in the dashboard, we're going to launch a tag. We're going to see if it worked. And then we're going to use the Chrome dev tools also to help implement some tracking of a button, just like you said, Michelle. So we're going to see how we would do that. And so
can we maybe use my website, our website, as a share screen?
Yeah, if you give me the link to it, then, or to the page, and just tell me when we get there, then yeah, I'm super happy to show you how to set it all up.
Phelan,
go on.
Sorry, Phelan, can I have an overview? Okay, so Search Console is what happens on the website.
No,
no,
before.
It's what happens to you when you're being in the world of Google search. So anytime someone's Googling something, then that's where Search Console.
So Analytics is on the website, what they're doing on the website. So then what is technically Tag Manager?
Tag Manager, it's the conductor is the way I like to think of it. So it's telling people when to go out and track things. And it's the guy going, okay, now you come in, event tag. That's, oh, they clicked on the button. So it's when triggers happen, that's the result of those triggers firing.
So somebody presses like a buy now, that would be a trigger. If somebody says like contact us, that's a trigger.
Exactly. Yeah. Or clicks on the mail to link or the tell link. So the phone number or the email that you see on a website, you want to track that because those are people that are getting a hold of you. These are all things that we can track. Email signups, that's another one that you could track as well. And the reason why we want to do this, Tag Manager plays really well with Google Analytics. And then also it means that when you go to Google Analytics, and remember when we talked about conversions and changing events into conversions, now you can actually get that whole journey. So what are the multiple steps? And that's why we want to do it like that part is.
Got it. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah,
and
no
Tag
problem.
Manager is just where you hold all the tags. Now, I just want to reiterate before we really get started that all of you are probably going to want to set up a one-on-one meeting at some point to go through this because it is new and this is implementation. And so if you want to hop on a call to get some help, don't be afraid to do that. You get one-on-one time with us to do those things. And everybody save your questions till the end. So write them down or put them in the comments and then we'll answer them at the.
Okay, so we got to cover in the overview. So we already touched on what I would say about Tag Manager is I think of it as the conductor, where it's the one signaling when all these tags fire. We're going to cover the main concepts, but also why it's awesome. And then also the dashboard, as I said. Tag Manager, it enables you to do conversion tracking. So whether that's Google Ads, that is annoying. And so whether it's like Google Ads, you want to track when someone reaches a thank you page, or sets up remarketing. You can even do it with Facebook Pixel. This is a really good way to do Facebook Pixel events as well, because you can deploy them using Tag Manager. And it also fits within the scope of the marketing platform. We've already covered analytics. Now we're covering Tag Manager. Next will be Data Studio when we do the measure setup, and then Google Optimize when we go and we're doing ads and we want to A/B test and change something on a page and see how that works. So there's three major parts to what happens with Tag Manager. And so the big part is a tag. So basically that's what we are firing. Is it Google Analytics that we want firing on all pages, or is it an event, Google Analytics event, which is someone clicking on that tell link and they're clicking to call you? So these are the tags. So they're the what is happening. The trigger is when it's happening. So again, like we said, you don't want to have the event firing every single moment. You want it to happen only when they click on the specific thing. So that's when the trigger. And so that's the when it happens. And then the last one, which is a little bit nebulous, but it's still important, and it's a variable. So that is a little bit of information that can swap out based on the specifics of that event. So a really popular one that's a variable is going to be like the page. So say you have the same contact form on every page, a variable you can have added to that is which page it's on, so that, oh, it's my about page is actually converting people the most when they fill out the form. And so this is a little bit of variable that can change based on information that's going on with that event. And so we also got to talk about, you don't have to stress about this, but I do want to mention it, is that there is an important concept in Tag Manager called the data layer. So what that is, it's super advanced, so don't stress about it, but I do want to touch on it. It's basically, there's a little bit of code that's collecting all this information, and that's called the data layer. So the data layer will have it there, and then it decides based on what you've told it to, or what the tags are supposed to do, where information's going. Like Google Analytics, right? It's going to be capturing information about how long people are on the page, where did they click, information about that click. And we'll cover that a little bit more, but basically it's gathering all this information. And you can do some really advanced and cool stuff. We're not going to stress about that because that's super advanced. I don't even really use it like that. And so the other one is remarketing, retargeting. And so that is ways that we can capture bits of information about people that we can then advertise to them later on. So this is going to be people who, when you're at a online store, if you click to checkout but you didn't complete the purchase, well, I'd like to remarket to you to go, hey, maybe a discount code will convince someone to go through and complete the purchase. So this is a way to re-engage, and Tag Manager is a really useful way to set up all these audiences that you can remarket to. Okay, and then this is the kind of a visualization about how that data layer works. And so what we have is your website, and it's going to collect the data, goes into this little layer here, and then it goes to Tag Manager, and then Tag Manager sends it back to whatever platform it's supposed to go to, whether it's Google Ads, Facebook Ads, Google Analytics, whatever the tag that's capturing that information and processing it, it sends it back to that platform. So what are the big reasons for using this? One of the big ones we'll cover is version control, which is honestly, it's so useful to have. And then we also got the debugger, and then also having it all in one central location means it's a lot easier for you as a marketer to keep an eye on where all these tags are and how they're. So version control, it's something from software. It's basically, what it does is it tells you a snapshot of the changes that were made to your Tag Manager and who made them and when they made them. So what this is really helpful for is say something breaks, then you can go, okay, we knew that last version was working. What's changed in this new version? And you could see the differences and see who did it. So then we can go, okay, so next time don't deploy this because of this reason, or don't do that because that broke it. So it gives you a way to check things and see different versions to see if something does break, that you can see where along that path it broke. And then it's got an excellent debugger, especially with Google Analytics 4, which we will go into in the, I think, the co-working we're doing. And then I'm going to go through that a little bit more about what stupid thing. And we can see whether these tags are working, and you can really get a good feel on what information you're collecting and is it doing the right things when you're expecting them. It's really useful. Also, it's also your way of seeing what goes into the data layer. And so that's really useful, that if you are doing these super advanced things, that you are collecting that information. And then the last one is, like I said, it's a really good no code solution, meaning that it's just a platform that you can click, fill in a couple spots, and then deploy the tag. You don't even have to think about code. It also enables you can do sequencing as well. That's another option in there. So say you need something to collect for remarketing audience, but before they click on a button, then you can sequence these things to make sure that it's firing in a specific pattern if you're not getting the information that you're expecting. And also, because it's centralized, you can do some really fun deployments. So you can say you have like a PDF giveaway that's for how to set up event tracking with Google Tag Manager giveaway. And I want this to show up only on my blog posts that mention Tag Manager. So what I could do is say that if there's a page like why Google Tag Manager is awesome, but I also have another one saying 5 tips for using Google Tag Manager, what you can do is say anytime the page URL, the page contains, if the page URL contains Tag Manager, fire. So that gives it a lot of flexibility as well. And you can also do stuff with thank you pages. If you've got multiple thank you pages, you can make it as specific or as generic as you would like as well. So it gives you a lot of flexibility for how to deploy these tags. And we'll go into that a little bit more when you see, once we get into the platform. It can be complex, and it also helps you with doing a little bit of software, like programming logic, because it is very much, if this happens, then do this, which is pretty much the core about everything about coding revolves around that concept. If this, then. So again, it also saves you a bunch of time. If you had to do it the old school way, you would actually have to get a web developer to implement all the code and fire these tags when this happens, and it's just a lot of headache. Whereas now it's installed once, you just go into the platform, I want to track this and I want this to fire when that gets clicked on, and then boom, you're off to the races. All right, and so what we're going to do is navigate in the dashboard, and then we're going to see on how we would set up the Google Analytics 4 tag. And then also I'm going to do that into the event tag as well for Google Analytics 4. And then we're going to go through with the debugger as well as the Chrome dev tools. And then we're going to see like a specific button. And so we identify that specifically. And so we're going to go through that and then debug it with the Google Analytics event tag. All right. You can see our lovely.
You make your screen bigger?
Okay, yes.
Awesome.
Is that better? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Yeah, okay. All right. So this is Tag Manager. So there's going to be a couple of things to note just here on the home screen. There's going to be changes that have happened. You will see them here if they haven't been deployed yet, and we'll go through what that looks like. There's also a description. So because you're apparently allowed different workspaces, I've never seen a real good use case for it, but it is something that exists. There's also going to be creating a new tag, which we'll go through. And then you could see how many changes have happened. So it gives you a tally. And then also tells you who was the last person to publish this and how long ago was it. So the other thing to note is along here, the left-hand side, this is where you're going to spend a lot of your time. In here is tags. So this is when you go into the tags, it's going to be, it's got like the name of the tag because you get to name it. It's also the type. So there's different pre-built ones. So Google Analytics Universal. And also you can see the trigger. So this one is the phone link is clicked, and we can see the trigger is when the phone link is clicked. You can also pause them here. You check them, and then you can pause them. Or in this case, I would be playing it again or unpause it. The other thing, yeah, and so you can also categorize these into folders as well that go into here. So the triggers, you can also see the conditions that are set up. These ones have page URL contains G4 setup. I want it to be an event fires when that page is viewed. You also, we have it, the tell link, and then it's also the type. So is it just a link or is it a page view? We also have like videos if they get watched, also scroll depth. So you can, again, when we talked about Google Analytics 4, it does 90%. So if they make it down 90% of the way, that'll get tracked as scroll depth. But you can also set it up yourself and do 25, 50, 75, 100%. So you could see where people are dropping off on pages. And then variables. And there's going to be two types of variables. There's ones that are built in. So these are ones that Tag Manager does on their own. And there's also going to be ones that are user defined. So a classic one that you're going to see is Google Analytics, right? The little ID that is unique to your own Google Analytics account is definitely one that will be, and that's definitely one that you'll see all the time. But there's other ones that are custom that we can go into, and I'm going to be covering those as well in a separate video because I'm going to be setting up a special one. Oh, and one other thing I just want to touch on is the admin section. So if you ever need to get the code again, you go to the admin section and you go inside the container level here on the right-hand side, and then you go down to the fourth one down where it says install Google Tag Manager. You click on that and it will open up that code that you saw when the first time you opened it. So if anything happens, you need to get that code again, that's where you go find it. Okay. Michelle, do you have that link? Could you pop it in the chat, please? Or I can find another one.
Sorry, no, I've got it.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, so there's the link for the landing page, and then when you go onto each of the campuses, those are the URLs. So it's a new button that we put on the site yesterday, actually. Tracking.
So we're trying to, yeah, what I would check, I wouldn't necessarily do this one. The event, the one you really want to be tracking the most is definitely going to be on the individual page. Yeah, this one here is where I would check as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so this one is where I would start because this is crucial, right? Them filling out this form is what is most important to your business. So that's where I would start right now.
Okay.
So what we would do is you hover over the submit button, and you right click and you hit inspect. And I'm moving it over to make it.
You're going to have to share the full screen, I think, to see that.
Okay, I was wondering about that.
I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right. It was one of those ones I've never really tested the theory.
Oh, and you got to make it bigger. It's hard to see the code. Maybe
okay.
Much smaller. There you go.
So.
Can you do a page half and half split?
Yes.
So don't be overwhelmed by this. So this is when Phelan right clicked on the button and the inspect element comes up on the website or on the computer, and it opens up this window with lots of code that looks crazy.
Yeah, we can tell that this is what we're looking for because it's got type submit. So that tells us that it's definitely a submit button, which is the thing we want to track. And then what we want to do is look for something that would probably be unique to it. And in this case, gform_submit as an ID is definitely something that's worth tracking. So what I would do, we won't be able to test this as much because it's technically not going to be on your website, which definitely.
Go into Michelle's tag manager.
Do we have access to
I do have tag manager.
Okay, awesome.
So in order, I don't think we have access though. So what you will need to do, Phelan, do you want to direct Michelle to add a user, which is perfect use case?
Yeah.
Share your screen now and you can show it.
This is going to be fun real life situation.
Yeah, I can figure out what tag manager is. I have got it open.
So Phelan, why don't you share
Yes.
your screen and go to the add a user and then Michelle can follow along.
Okay.
Cool.
So
So all these boxes are, if you're a marketing agency, you're going to set up your clients with their own box. Is that right, Phelan?
it's going to be
Yeah.
an account, just like Google Analytics 4, an account can have multiple containers under it, just like how a Google Analytics account can have multiple properties under it.
But you want, as a business owner, the ideal situation is that you have your own account and you are not in an agency's, you're not a property inside an agency's account. And
Yeah,
then you're,
so-
where are you? So over in admin?
You go into Tag Manager, you click on admin, and then in admin, you go to user management.
Oh, let's share your screen.
Yeah.
And everybody else, feel free to open your tag manager, click around and get down.
Can you see
Every
it?
opportunity, I tell you. Okay, yeah, totally see that. Okay, so that's your container there in the middle of the screen. So click on.
In the top right-hand corner
Thank you.
Great.
of the container.
Of the contact.
So in the middle of the screen over to the right, under the create an account, see the little cog on the right-hand side? Click on that.
Yep.
Oh, wait, we're looking at now
We're at
your other
Google
page.
Doc, or sorry, Microsoft Doc.
What?
Yeah, it's, you flipped over to, so just click on your Chrome again.
Sorry. And then, sorry, why is this being so silly?
Then it's opening up that, I don't know.
Okay, now hit
Oh, it's being
Hit.
exported then.
Control and tilde. That's the key that's above the tab.
Above tab?
The tab
Oh,
on your
yeah,
keyboard.
okay.
So the tilde is the one that's to the left of the one and above the
Yeah.
tab. And if you click on
The-
that and with control, it'll cycle through windows inside of the same program.
Okay, I'm pushing that. I don't know why this isn't working. I'm sorry. Maybe this wasn't the best idea for other people.
Oh, no, it's always a good idea. This is normal. So can you minimize the screen and let's see if you have another.
There you go. I think I found it. That's
Perfect. Mail, we got, no, that's a portfolio and your Zoom. It's a different window.
it.
It's
If you
the
look
one
in the-
It's because I've got
the
two.
furthest left along the bottom there. You can see the word Google or goo.
We understand. I have a lot of tabs open.
I'm there now, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So
Okay.
click on user management.
third one down.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. And then the plus icon in the top right-hand corner. And add user. And Pip add Seymour Digital Media. I will type it into the chat.
Oh, you got it. .com.
.com. Yeah. And then please click on,
Administrator.
yeah, but more importantly is container permissions, and then click read. Yeah, that's fine. And then the top one, publish. Awesome. And then hit done, and I will get the invitation. And
Invite.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Perfect.
so you can also invite multiple people at once. Yeah. Sorry, I just signed in as too many people at once. Okay. Accept. All right. And here, I'll share my screen now, and we will. Okay. And what is it? WC. Yeah, there we go. So you can use the search function as well, especially if you have multiples like I do. It's definitely worth it to do that. And so we are going to be in here. So of course, this is a little more compressed, so you're probably not always going to see it like this, where they're trying to fit everything in. But we can see that this is 11th version. It was edited, last edited 22 days ago. So what I'm going to do is click add new tag. And so, sorry, I'm just so used to it that I didn't even look at this. But okay, so we have the two spots that we can configure something. And we have the tag. So again, that's the what is going to be firing. And then the trigger is when it's going to be firing. So in this case, what we're going to do is we are going to configure this as a Google Analytics GA4 event. And then the configuration we're going to use is, we can have none, but we're going to use the one that you guys set up with, which is probably going to be called Google Analytics GA4 configuration.
Sorry, I know you want questions after, but I'm not going to remember this. How do we know out of that big list that you've chosen which to choose?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So basically you're doing it based on the platform that you're going to be wanting to be tracking for. So in this case, we've got Google Analytics. This is the universal one. So this is the one that's being sunset. These ones, Google Analytics GA4 configuration, this is just like regular, it's scanning the website and it's doing all the tracking. But to set up events that you can do specific, I think you mentioned that you want to track like the catering form versus a regular contact us form.
Yeah.
You would set that up using Google Analytics GA4 event.
Okay. And what about the other stuff in that list?
So these are all,
yeah,
these are all the Google made ones. So this is Google Ads. So when you go to do the conversion tracking, you would use the conversion tracking, and they'll tell you exactly what bits of information to put in it when you go to set up a conversion in Google Ads. But they'll have something, Google Ads conversion ID, and then a label. They'll tell you those two bits of information, and all you have to do is just paste them in there, and it's very easy to get going. And basically, the big thing about all of these tags is you kind of need to, you will need to know what platform, but you're just basically, because we know we're going to be doing a Google Analytics GA4 event, there's the in name right here. So we don't need to stress about trying to find it. There are a whole range of them because you can scroll down. And you can also use custom HTML, which if you're using something like Microsoft Clarity, I just use raw HTML and I just pasted it in there and just named the tag Microsoft Clarity. And then I don't have to stress about like a specific build or anything like that. But most of the time, try to find a built-in one, because they're usually really smoothed out a lot of the issues that could come up with it. And generally it's just better to use a built one. They also have community tags. I found them to be pretty uninspiring. They do not live up.
Community tag.
So that is people out in the community have built their own tags, because it's all open source for anyone to add to it. And so you can have Agile CRM has got like their own tags that are probably related to their platform. And there's a whole bunch of these. Honestly, I wouldn't spend a lot of time in here. Like I said, I've tried it a couple of them and they sucked. I'll be honest. It's no fault of the developers who built them. It's just I found them a little lackluster. And so I wouldn't stress about that. I would just focus on anything that's in this first section. And you can see these featured ones are all Google made ones. So, that's one that you can take a look at, and they're all part of the Google extended universe of products that they offer. And if you need anything else, you can always search, like, I don't know, YouTube or other Google stuff, because there's going to be some that are down here that are other Google products that are less used. If you wanted to tag for that, then you can have that as well.
So basically, you're just saying the most used one would be that G4 analytics.
Yeah, honestly, this is the one originally the Universal Analytics, but now with the GA4 event, pretty much that's what I'm going to be doing. It's that in conversion tracking with Google Ads are pretty much the two things I'm spending almost all my time on.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And one other one, if you go to set up Facebook pixel stuff, custom HTML is the one you would use for that. But we'll cover that. If you guys have any questions about that, we can cover that a bit more once you guys get used to it. But for just getting started, we're going to go into this tag, the GA4 event. And we've already set it to the same ID that we've already given it before. And we're going to call this event, what was the name of the?
Apply now.
Yeah, apply now, form filled.
And then just on New Westminster.
Just a quick question. Is it the same form for both of them, or are they two different forms on the back end?
It's the same form for the two different campuses. So it just fires to two different people, to each of the admissions coordinators.
Oh.
Two different ed accounts, and then
yeah, I might, if I were going to do something like that, I might have an option as like a radio button that's like Victoria or New West. So that way, as it comes into the email, that way the team knows, oh, they don't have to ask anyone anything. They've already.
Oh, it'll only go to them because at the beginning, like where you clicked on that apply now, you had to choose whether it was New West or Victoria.
Oh, okay.
Relevant to them.
Yeah. Okay. So this one, I'll say. So and the naming conventions are specific in Google Analytics 4. So you're going to do new, and you don't do spaces, you do underscores. So New West, apply, form, filled. So you're going to, leave underscores between each of the spaces. And no capitalizations. They don't like any of that stuff. So you can add extra parameters. Remember how I talked about in Google Analytics 4 that if you can add as many different parameters. I think, Michelle, we looked at an option. We're probably going to have a one-on-one where we redo this so that it has the really upgraded one from Gravity Forms, because they had the one where they collect all that information that's on the form and it actually submits it into your Google Analytics so that you can do like a lot of really cool analysis. So, but it's going to be very advanced, because like I was looking at it and I was like, oh, this would be intimidating if I did not know what was going on. And so now we're going to choose the trigger. So we've got a couple of ones that are already pre-built and so there's one that will always be there no matter what, is the all pages. And it's basically, that's your classic Google Analytics, right? You just want it on every page, just collecting information. But in this case, we're actually going to want it to fire in a very specific circumstance. So one thing, and in order to do that part, I did miss one little step that you guys are all going to need to do before we actually get to this part. So I'm just going to save the name, discard this, because you do actually need, I always forget this when I'm teaching because I'm so excited about the tag that I forget that we actually need the variables to be activated so that Google Tag Manager can know to track like the class of this item, what's the text on the button, all these little bits of information. And so how you do that is you go to variable, and you've already got them activated. Pretty much everyone else, this is not going to be activated, but you need this to do the event tracking. because we're going to be using the click. So when that click happens, we want all this information to be captured in the data layer. So we can tell, oh, this event had this click had this particular elements about it. Okay, that's the one I want. And so this is the way that Tag Manager knows to grab this bits of information. So what I usually do is I'll go to click configure in the top right-hand corner, and all these ones are going to be activated by default. And then the ones were really important, clicks. So all the elements of somewhere where someone's clicked. You can also do form submissions. These can be a little bit more complicated. That's why I go for the click when we're getting started and just learning about how this all works. This is going to be a lot easier for you if we do the clicks. And then I also like to turn on video. So this is anything about a person watching a video. We can see the video URL, the video title, how far they made it into the video. So these are all really cool things, especially going back to that Google Analytics 4 with a custom audience builds. I want to see all the people who only made it to 50% of the video, not 100%, and make an audience for retargeting out of that. So really cool stuff in there. A scroll. Again, we were talking about, I want to track who's making it to, say you have a little email sign up halfway down the page. You want to track everyone who made it to halfway down the page, but didn't fill that out. Those are the people that you want to be targeting. So there's ways that you can actually have the scroll depth become new audiences as well. And all right, and once you've clicked on them, that's all you need to do, close this. And we're going to go back to the tags. So I did do, so one way that we showed you of creating a new tag on the home screen, click a new tag. The other way is to go into the tags and to click new. And again, we know we're going to do a GA4 event. We know that we're going to use the ID that we set up the configure tag with, or sorry, the GA4 configuration tag. And again, we're going to put in our uncapitalized underscore between each word. I think there's a name for that, but I can't remember. And then in the trigger, we are going to go click on the plus icon. And we're going to configure this trigger. So it's going to throw us a bunch of options. And in this particular case, what we're going to do is we're looking at that click elements, right? And so this is either it's a link or it's all elements. We're going to do all elements because we don't want just a link. We want anything that has this particular ID we want to be tracking. Just in case there's something, it does some weird stuff. I've had situations where you think the link is good and it doesn't. So generally I find it safer to do all elements. And then we don't want it to fire on all the clicks. We want it to fire on a specific one. So we're going to say some clicks. And this is where we're going to use, so we've got a click class. So it's saying the class. So that's a little bit of CSS. Basically, they have IDs or classes, and they just say that if you have this class, style it this way. So that way, instead of writing custom CSS for each single button, you say, anytime this element has the class of button, always look like this. And so that's where the inspecting element kind of kicks in. And so now when we inspect this and it highlights this, we can see that it has the class of gform underscore button space button. So that's a pretty general, because that means any button that's using Gravity Forms could be triggered by that. So we don't want that. But I see here with the ID that it uses gform, so this Gravity Form underscore submit. Okay, so that's the much more unique ID that's specific to this form, because it even has a little value there. So I'm gonna guess it's specific to this form.
Yeah.
So we go in back to Tag Manager, and we don't want click classes. We want the click ID, meaning that if someone were to click on this element and it has this ID that we've found here, that's when I want it to fire. So it's very specific to that button when someone clicks on that button. And we're going to put in gform submit button 23. And then we hit
name that
save.
trigger.
Pardon?
You need to name that trigger.
Yeah. And so as soon as you hit save, just like when you guys did it with the GA4 configuration setup, it's going to say, give you a name. Of course, this one is, it's not as, we're not going to go with the default one because that's not helpful at all as a name. So what we're going to do is New West apply form filled. So that way we can identify it as the New West page, and then we know it's a form being filled. So it makes it easy for you guys coming back later and you're like, oh, rather than just have it be like all elements one, which wouldn't be very helpful, we now have a much more specific name that we can use. So now we're going to do the same thing again. And in this case, this is totally up to you. Personal preference, I like to have it where it's GA4 event at the very start. So that way I know, oh, this is an event tag. I don't have to do a lot of thinking. And then the next part is going to be, new, and pretty much the same name as the trigger. It's what I usually do. Form filled. And so, where is it? Okay. So here's another thing to notice is on the top of it here, it says workspace changes 13. So we've changed a bunch of things on your tag manager, and including making this tag, making this trigger. And we can see all of that when we go to click the submit. It will have everything that we've changed. So we added a bunch of built-in variables that's included in this part, but we also had the new trigger and we have a new tag. And so I always say, give your version a name. It's not like the end of the world, but it will just make it easier in case you guys are like, what were we doing? If you're working in teams and people are changing this all the time, definitely you have to have names, like naming conventions. And in this case, we're not going to reinvent the world. Event apply form filled. And we're going to hit publish. And so now what we're going to do, I want to test this out. So the next step is you're going to need to have this Chrome extension. What is tag assistant conversion? Yeah, this guy, I'm going to put him in the chat for you guys.
Do we
So you're going to need this
element of the web page up?
part,
The element.
the inspect element.
Yeah.
Wow.
There. Awesome.
Yeah. So this Chrome extension is very similar to the legacy tag assistant. This one's a little bit better for debugging if something's not firing or how many tags are there. This one's much better, but for debugging if the event tracking that you've done is working, this one is really good because it's custom built to work with tag manager. So what we do is we hit preview. And when this opens up, it's going to be this new window, and they're going to ask which page, which URL do you want to go to? And in this case, I'm going to copy this and we're going to open it up in a new window. And you'll see down here in the bottom corner, it tells you that we're connected, and you can even tell that it's connected because this will flash here. And it says connected. So if anything goes wrong, then they're pretty quick to tell you that you're not connected anymore. When you are in there, you will see that there is the tag manager we're in, and you can also see what has fired and also see what has not fired. So these are tags.
Can you make it a little bigger?
Is that better?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Okay. Okay, so we've got a couple things along here. So this is going to start with the tags, and it tells you which ones. This says that they're paused. And then this one is the one we are trying to test out, and it didn't activate, which is good because we told it not to activate just when you land on the page. So now what we need to do is go back over to the page, and I'm not going to fill this out. I'm just going to test if the tracking worked. When you go to make these into conversions, it will take try not to use my $5 word for this, but it's really hard not to. But it will be item potent, which is a really fancy way of saying only one time will count. So it's a singular event that it will track. Even if, say, you had to click it a couple times, it knows that this person actually just meant to fill out the form once. And so it'll only track the one conversion. The only time that wouldn't happen is with e-commerce, because if someone fills out the credit card, fills out the checkout twice, you want to keep track of that. But generally, you don't need to worry about it. So I'm going to click this button.
Which button?
The button that we were tracking, the submit button on the form. But the tag did fire, which is what we did expect, because like most people are not just going to click. No one's just going to click on the submit button. The other thing that we can see in here is you can click into, here we go. So we've got request for information. That's the page. And it also has a bunch of information about so we got a click here. So that we can see that there was a click, and we can see, different variables that are in there. You're not going to really need this part, but we can see that our click ID had the thing we were tracking. So perfect. That's exactly what we were expecting. So that's good. I'm happy with that. Again, you also have data layer, and consent is going to be more important if you are in California or the EU. That's where it needs to be affirmatively given consent. And there's a whole system for setting that up, but you don't need to worry. And that means that that did work, and that is exactly what we expected. So that is awesome news for us that we tracked everything. And so now in your Google Analytics 4, you should start seeing under the events tab, newest apply form filled. And then you could do the same for Victoria, and then they do the exact same process and just replace newest with Victoria and set up 2 different events, and they'll be specific to those individual pages. And that way you can keep track of it that way.
Phelan, would you be able to just from top to bottom first make a quick summary, just because that was a lot of information?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I know. It's definitely, it's a lot. And you guys are catching me after I've been using this for a couple of years now, like pretty religiously. So to me, it's very much like the back of my hand. So yeah, totally. If there's any parts of it, basically what we're trying to do is have those events fire. Do you want me to talk through?
No,
Let
like
me
if
first
you say, like, for a new account, like obviously I would have a brand new account, but literally just added G4 to the website, or sorry, tag manager to the website. So like step 1 would be, you said the variables. We have to go
variables.
Into so like step 1 is, and what variables are we choosing? How do we know what to choose? And then step 2 would be making, my brain is.
Well, just there is what, let me just interject with one step. We also have a step-by-step guide that will be up on Kajabi, where you can actually open a Google. You can open the doc and follow along with slide pictures of
screenshots of inside the platform. The other thing, so with the variables, don't worry about it. You can click all of them. Honestly, that's what I would just do. Honestly, that's my own personal preference is the ones I pick. But honestly, if you just check them all off, you can't break anything. It just says, oh, track this if I want to track it. But there's nothing that's saying it's not gonna break anything. So you don't have to stress about that part. The biggest part is just focusing on how to make sure you're tracking the right button and then debugging it, which we went through today. It's definitely, this is going to take practice, and this is going to, once you get it once or twice and you've tested it, honestly, it'll feel like second nature in no time.
The debugging is overwhelming for sure.
Because like I'm in my variables page and I don't have what you've shown. That's
Let's
kind of
share your screen.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I just have no idea, because like I'm in variables and like I go into event, there's nothing, no configuration needed.
So in the top right hand corner, we've got configure there.
Top right. Oh, okay. And then
so you just turn all those on. Like, got it.
Perfect.
Also, you should plug in your laptop.
So I think for next class, everybody has to try to set up a tag and we'll have the guide for you. And don't do the debugging. We'll do it with you and we'll go through everybody's tag that they set up on their own. Doesn't that sound fun? Who wanted homework?
Not me.
Oh, yeah.
Right. You can also do it in the co-working session. So next Wednesday, we can go through it. Oh, I don't think damn it. We should have had one of those every week, huh? So it'll be the second and third. Yes. Okay. They'll also be going up on Kajabi, I think this weekend. That's what we're getting done. But so what we know tag managers a lot. So just take it slow. Your whole game plan is to go there today. To go there, click on your container. You don't even have to set up a tag. Just go into the variables and see if you can, follow along and click all those boxes. You will not learn this overnight, but in 4 weeks' time, you'll feel a lot more confident. In 5 weeks' time, I guarantee you'll be a pro-ish.
Oh yeah, by the time we get to the Google ads, it'll feel like second nature, because once you get a rhythm with it, it honestly makes your life a lot easier, because you're able to track, you're able to then go to your analytics and pull out all this wonderful data about all the events that are happening on the website and be able to show your clients, or you can see where your marketing is working and see all the steps along the journey, and it'll really open things up for you.
This is what makes you a pro marketer. Well, with SEO stuff and Google ads, because if you know how to set up conversion tracking and the event tracking, so you set up events in Tag Manager and conversions in Google Analytics, right? And so they're mirrored. Is that right, Phelan? Is that how you describe it?
No, Tag Manager creates the events based on what you tell it to do, and then you name it. And then in Tag and Google Analytics 4, you actually then convert this event into a conversion, which is like we did today, the form being filled out. That's definitely going to be something that's super important to your business. Of course, there's ones like that you might want to be tracking as events, like the video. They're not really super critical to the business, but they are still important to keep track of. And that's a bit of a, I guess it's not that much of a change, because the old Google Analytics UA also did something very similar, that you would have to configure it into a goal after you've created the event.
So you literally go to Tag Manager, you create the event. and then you go to Google Analytics and create the goal.
You turn it on to a conversion. So you're saying like, oh, of all these events, this one is the one that I think is a conversion. Meaning
so do we need to do that for Michelle now too?
Yes, please.
Data coming in. I think that's the only issue, is that we might not have the data there because it doesn't do real time the same way anymore.
I know, but don't we want to set up that portion?
It has to already be an event. So we could try. I'm not confident.
I don't. Oh, so you mean you have to wait a little bit is what you're saying?
Yeah, it has to show up for you to tell it to become a conversion.
So Michelle could click on the form, fill it out, and do a test.
Yeah, I actually filled out a test form maybe 2 days ago before I let our team know that it had been done. So
you can do it again.
And I can do it again.
Now, just so you know, something will come up for you all when you're, talking to other marketing agencies, and they'll say things like, oh, your tracking isn't set up properly because you're tracking the button click and not the form filled out. So the other way to track, right, is to track the actual thank you page filled out, which instead of just the click of the button. But you'll learn that a little later on.
Isn't the thank you page like where after you click the button, it takes you to a thank you page, and then you can basically
track that.
Yeah, I've gone there.
Yeah.
And what would be advantageous about doing that over the button click that we've just learned?
You can have rage clicks on a button, right? So say the button, but there's not much of a difference, is there, Phelan? when you get right
Not
down to
these
the
days.
grass.
There used to be a really important to have it be on the thank you page, because say that they got to the form and you don't know, like, that's really that they filled it out because it got transferred over to this page. But like with the change in systems, honestly, I like the click myself.
I like the form, but that's because I think I'm a little old school. So I guess it's a personal preference.
Okay.
But we did have a marketing company come back to us saying, you're not tracking properly because you're not tracking the thank you page. So some people prefer it. So either or, right? I'm sure I could find some documentation to support my view, Phelan.
Because we used to do the thank you page. So this whole button is new to me. That's why I'm used to tracking the thank you page, but then there's also times where that thank you page doesn't load.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we've
that
had
would be
that as
when you do the
well,
button.
where that, or they filled out the form and then they just didn't bother, like they just closed the window down before they went to the thank you page. We were getting the leads, but we weren't seeing it in the thank you page, people landing on it. And so it's definitely, it's test, always keep your eyes peeled for it and what you expect the behavior to be. And if it's not coming out like that, then I would take a look at it and make sure that if you're expecting a thank you page to show up and it's not showing up in your analytics store, do you have to do this right now?
Specifically.
Yes.
Okay, so now we are in Google Analytics 4, and we're in Michelle's account.
Yes, I would actually not be going into the life cycle for this because we've just set this up. I would go, into reports. It's still going to be there, but we're going to go real time at the second one.
So you log in, you go under the home on the left-hand side.
Am I not doing it? Yeah.
No, whose screen are we sharing? Phelan? Oh, Michelle?
This is
Michelle. Yeah, you're doing it. Oh,
Yeah,
why
you're good.
don't I give you the permissions and then I can
do not have access to the account or property? Interesting. What? Can we go? So the cog in the bottom left-hand side, let's go look at your permissions.
No, it's internal error.
Oh,
It's
them,
500.
not you.
Yeah, that's a 500 error. There's something that just broke on their system. Yeah, it nothing to do with you. Internal error is, it's definitely they're having issues.
So that's cool. So we can't do it right now. Unless
we can't really test right now. Sorry. Yeah, that was unexpected.
Yeah, it was still open from the other day when we did something. I was too scared to close it in case I lost anything.
Yeah, that is very much, they are having some issues. Internal error is not good.
Anytime you see 500 error, Phelan, where are you seeing that error?
I'm not. I just know internal error means 500. It's just the pair always go together, that it's a status code. Basically, it says if you reach out to a page and if it's not there or it's broken, it spits back different codes. So 400s means something, you screwed up something. You don't have permissions. You're not logged in. A 500 error is they're broken. That means 500 errors are bad. That means that things are breaking or broken. And 200 is good. 300s are redirects.
Yeah. So this one says missing permissions.
It's not because of that
400.
internal error. That tells me
that little red thing that showed up.
Yeah, the little red guy with the internal error, please try again later, that's a very much a we're broken, please come back later.
Yeah.